Why avoidants feel safe with empaths but also want to escape them. There is something almost magnetic about the connection between an avoidant and an empath. Something that feels effortless in the beginning, yet becomes deeply confusing over time. At first, it feels like the perfect match, like two people who somehow understand each other without needing many words. The empath brings warmth, patience, and emotional openness, while the avoidant brings calmness, mystery, and a sense of independence that feels grounding. And in those early moments, the avoidant actually feels safe, not because they are ready for deep intimacy, but because the empath doesn't immediately threaten their need for space. The empath, by nature, doesn't rush to control or demand. They observe, they feel, they give. And for someone who is used to emotional pressure or unpredictability, this feels like relief. The avoidant begins to relax in ways they rarely do, opening up little by little, sharing fragments of themselves that they usually keep hidden. It's not that they trust easily, it's that the empath creates an environment where trust doesn't feel forced. But here's where the dynamic quietly begins to shift, almost without either person realizing it. Because the same emotional depth that makes the empath feel safe is also the very thing that starts to overwhelm the avoidant. As the connection deepens, the empath naturally leans in more. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that seeks closeness, understanding, and emotional reciprocity. And while this is completely natural and healthy for most people, for the avoidant, it starts to feel like pressure. It's not loud pressure. It's not even intentional pressure. But to someone who associates closeness with loss of control, even gentle emotional presence can feel like too much. So now the avoidant is stuck in an internal conflict they don't know how to explain. On one side, they feel safe with the empath, more seen and understood than they've felt in a long time. But on the other side, they feel a growing urge to create distance, to pull back, to regain a sense of emotional independence. And this is the part that confuses the empath the most. Because from their perspective, nothing bad has happened. There's no clear argument, no betrayal, no obvious reason for the shift. Just a subtle change in energy, a distance that wasn't there before. The avoidance starts to withdraw, not because they've stopped caring, but because they've started feeling too much. And for them, too much doesn't feel like love, it feels like a loss of control. They begin to overthink every interaction, every expectation, every emotional moment. Even the empath's kindness can start to feel like something they can't live up to. And instead of communicating this openly, they retreat. Not because they want to hurt the empath, but because distance feels like the only way to regulate what's happening inside them. Meanwhile, the empath senses this shift almost immediately. They feel the emotional disconnection, the change in tone, the lack of presence. And their natural instinct is to lean in closer, to fix it, to understand it, to bring things back to how they were. But this is where the cycle intensifies. Because the more the empath leans in, the more the avoidant feels the need to step back. And the more the avoidant steps back, the more the empath feels the need to close the gap. It becomes a silent push and pull dynamic where both people are acting from their emotional instincts, but neither one feels understood. What makes this connection so powerful is also what makes it so fragile. The empath offers emotional safety, but also emotional depth. The avoidant craves that safety, but fears that depth. So they stay until it feels like too much. And they leave until the distance feels like too much. This is why avoidants often come back after pulling away. Because once they have space, once the emotional intensity settles, they begin to miss what they had with the empath. They remember the calm, the understanding, the feeling of being accepted without judgment. And in that moment, the connection feels safe again. Not because it has changed, but because the distance has reduced the emotional pressure they were feeling. But unless something deeper shifts within them, the pattern repeats. They return, reconnect, feel safe, and then slowly begin to feel overwhelmed again. For the empath, this can feel like emotional whiplash. One moment everything feels deep and real, and the next moment it feels distant and uncertain. And over time, this inconsistency can become exhausting, even for someone who is naturally patient and understanding. Because no matter how much empathy you have, you still need stability. You still need presence. You still need to feel chosen, not just when it's convenient or comfortable for the other person. The truth is, avoidants don't run from people. They run from the emotions those people make them feel. And empaths, by their very nature, bring those emotions to the surface in a way that is both healing and terrifying. So the question isn't just why avoidants feel safe with empaths. The deeper question is whether they are ready to stay in that safety when it starts to require emotional growth. Because real connection isn't just about feeling safe in the beginning. It's about staying present when things become uncomfortable. And until the avoidant learns that closeness doesn't mean losing themselves, and the empath learns that love shouldn't require constant emotional chasing, this dynamic will continue to loop. Not because they don't care about each other, but because they're both trying to meet each other from two very different emotional worlds.